Somewhere in the frozen wilderness of Alaska lies an invisible triangle. No maps mark its borders. No warning signs stand at its edge. But since 1988, more than 20,000 people have walked into this region and simply never walked back out. Planes disappear from radar without a single distress call. Experienced hunters vanish a few hundred feet from their own cabins. Search teams with dogs, helicopters, and heat-sensing drones find nothing. Not a scrap of fabric. Welcome back to Facto Mayank. This region has a name among locals and investigators. The Alaska Triangle. It stretches roughly from Anchorage in the south, up to Barrow in the north, and over to Juneau in the southeast, an area covering hundreds of thousands of square miles of mountains, glaciers, and dense forest. And within this triangle, Alaska has a missing persons rate more than twice the national average of the United States. To understand why this place is so unsettling, you have to understand what it actually is. Alaska is enormous, nearly 1/5 the size of the entire continental United States, but home to fewer than 1 million people. Huge stretches of it have no roads, no cell towers, and no way to call for help. If something goes wrong out there, you are quite literally on your own. That alone explains a lot of the disappearances, but it doesn't explain all of them. Take the case of a small aircraft carrying a U.S. congressman in October 1972. The plane took off from Anchorage heading to Juneau, a route pilots had flown thousands of times without incident. Weather that day was rough, but not unusual for the region. The plane never arrived. What followed was the largest search and rescue operation in American history at the time. Military aircraft, Coast Guard cutters, and civilian volunteers combed over 325,000 square miles of Alaskan wilderness and ocean for 39 days straight. They found absolutely nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no emergency beacon signal. To this day, that aircraft has never been found, and it remains one of the largest unsolved aviation disappearances in U.S. history. Then there are the ground disappearances, and these are in some ways even stranger. In 1973, 4 family members vanished near Chugach National Forest. They had set up camp along a well-known trail, one used by hikers every single season. A search party found their tents still standing, their equipment untouched, their food supplies exactly where they'd left them. But the family themselves were gone, and no trace of them was ever recovered. No blood, no signs of a struggle, no tracks leading away from the campsite. It was as if they had simply stepped out of their own lives. Locals in the region will tell you that stories like this go back centuries, long before Alaska became a U.S. state. The indigenous Tlingit and Inuit communities have oral traditions describing a spirit known as Kushtaka, said to lure travelers away from safety, particularly near water and dense tree line. Skeptics dismiss this as folklore. But even modern search and rescue coordinators, people who deal strictly in facts and probability, admit that this region behaves differently than anywhere else they've worked. So what are the actual theories? The first and most scientifically grounded is Alaska's brutal environment itself. Sudden whiteout blizzards can drop visibility to 0 in minutes. Temperatures can plunge without warning. Hypothermia can disorient a person so severely that they wander in the wrong direction entirely, sometimes toward danger rather than away from it. Search teams call this phenomenon hiker's fugue, and it's a real documented effect of extreme cold on the human brain. The second theory involves the region's geology. Alaska sits on some of the most magnetically unstable ground on the planet, close to the magnetic North Pole, with massive mineral deposits running underground. Pilots have reported compass malfunctions and radio interference in this exact region for decades, glitches that could, in theory, throw a plane wildly off course without the crew ever realizing it until it's too late. The third theory is far darker, and it's one that refuses to go away. Alaska's remoteness makes it, according to some investigators, one of the easiest places in America to disappear on purpose, or to make someone else disappear. With almost no law enforcement presence across most of its landmass, and search areas larger than entire U.S. states, some cases investigators quietly admit may not be accidents at all. And then there's the theory nobody in an official capacity will touch on record: unexplained aerial phenomena. Alaska has one of the highest rates of reported unusual aerial sightings in the country, and several missing persons cases include witness statements describing strange lights in the sky in the hours before someone vanished. The U.S. military maintains multiple classified installations across Alaska, and locals have long speculated about exactly what kind of testing happens in this remote, unmonitored airspace, testing that officially does not exist. What makes the Alaska Triangle so difficult to dismiss is the sheer scale of it. This isn't one missing plane or one missing family. It's a documented pattern spanning decades, involving trained pilots, experienced outdoorsmen, and full search and rescue teams equipped with the best modern technology available, all coming up empty in a landscape that seems to simply swallow people whole. The state of Alaska has never issued an official statement addressing the triangle as a unified phenomenon. Missing persons cases are handled individually, filed away, and in most instances, quietly closed due to lack of evidence. But for the families still waiting, for the search teams who spent weeks in freezing conditions finding nothing, and for the thousands of names that remain unaccounted for, the Alaska Triangle isn't folklore. It's a very real, very American mystery, hiding in plain sight in the last true frontier. Hope you enjoyed this video on Facto Mayank. If you did, don't forget to like and share it. Thank you so much for all your love and comments. See you in the next one.